this is my school days reenacted. I went through Kings with Glenn Denham, who was a magnificent raconteur and speaker and funny guy and knew what to say, and now I'm on stage with Ruds, who's pretty similar.
Unlike yourself, yeah.
So Glenn wanted to pay tribute to Rudd, so let's just cover that first. I did get a written version of that ill-fated video, so I could read this out to you if I can find it. Bear with me briefly. Here we go.
The food was good.
The food was amazing.
The food was good.
So the reason we went to Glenn on Rudd's was when Rudd's first came into the Kings first 11, he was actually at Kings. That's how freaking good he was. he was still at McAndrew.
Look at that photo there.
And was finishing the...
Who dresses me like that? I mean, that's a shocker. I mean, seriously.
That's your mother.
No, that's me.
So Ruds wasn't even at Kings when he first played for the Kings first 11. So Glenn was in the first 11 when Ruds first came in, and it was quite special. Ruds hates being talked about, which is unusual for someone that's been talked about a lot, so you're just going to have to get used to it, big guy. So Ruds first played for Kings in the summer between him leaving McAndrew and arriving at Kings, because they'd already identified him as good enough to play in the first 11. That's pretty special. I was lucky enough to play in the first basketball team my third form year. I played some inter-schools, and I was dreadfully out of my depth with guys like Rob Saxon and Jeff Rodden, who were like 17 and 18, and I was a little 13-year-old punk. And I found it very intimidating, but Ruds went straight into the first 11, fitted in very well, and but he did earn a nickname, and Glenn wanted to make that known. Because when Ruds first came into the Kings first 11, he was still an intermediate schoolboy, and he turned up in white shorts. Little white shorts, and the boys in the first 11 wore white longs. Yeah. So they immediately nicknamed him Nappies.
Nappies. Yeah.
Because he looked like he was wearing nappies with the pants. And I don't know. I don't know if the nickname stuck, Ruds.
No, I don't think it did. Yeah.
No. We moved on from that pretty quickly.
There's other bully functions which are more obvious that people would alluded to, Mark. Yeah, but your start.
But your time in that first 11 when you first came to Kings, so we heard on a Ruds.
There's Shane Warne behind there. There's Shane Warne, morning.
We hear it on a Ruds if he stops interjecting, and particularly from his days at Kings. So he came into Kings, as we've touched on, very young. Was in the first 11 with some interesting characters. I mean, gosh, Kempy, who we're all going to see tomorrow night, play a bit of music. Graham Kemp, great sportsman. Guys like Ken Woodhouse, who was a fantastic rugby player, a hard-nosed guy and a very tough individual, a year ahead of us, Gaza?
Yeah.
Tony
Braggs,
who else? Wayne Butler, who I played basketball with in the first basketball team, was in that team. A lot of older kids. What was it like coming into Kings as a 12, 13-year-old little kid from South Dunedin? Well, suddenly you're in the big time.
I remember playing my first game for a Kings High School first 11, and the big fella here, Ian Alexander Rutherford, who played a bit of cricket before and I said to my mother, I'm playing for the first 11 on Sunday, Mum. And school started on the Tuesday, and I'm like 13, and I've got to wear these long whites. So I tried the big fella's whites on, and as a cricketer, you can fit sort of one thigh pad into your whites, but I can fit about 4. So it was fair to say, without a big draw cord, it wasn't going to quite work. And I tried I had these Wrangler sort of golden corduroys. I tried that, but I couldn't fit one thigh pad into that, so I had to wear the shorts.
I reckon you made it dark.
I did not. Yeah, thanks, big guy. I got 31 off for about 2 hours. Yeah, thanks. But that was my first game for sort of the Kings High School first 11, and that was memorable, Mark. Thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah, not a problem. And the imagery was amazing for those of us. And like I was in the third form at Kings, and I heard about Ruds before it even arrived to the school. That's what his reputation was like. And I remember talking to some other guys tonight about it. Obviously, we were sportsmen, and we kept our fingers on the pulse of what was happening in sport. We were talking about this kid coming to school, so that's how much excitement we all had about him, and it's fair to say delivered. Glenn, one of the other things Glenn wanted to tell us, unfortunately, technology denied us it, but he remembered opening the batting against the Tyree team out at Mosgiel one day, and with Ken. So they were fantastic because Glenn was like, if you remember Glenn Jenner, he's like 6'6", and Rudd was a little tight. He was growing a little bit, but he wasn't the tallest guy, and so it was a bit like Joel Garner.
Yeah, big Joel.
Whatever.
It's all proportion. Yeah.
We won't go there. But Glenn's story was this particular day, Ken and him opened the batting against Tyree.
I've seen Joel naked. I've seen Joel naked.
They put on 110 for the first wicket against a senior Dunedin club team, and this is a King's High School team. They were pretty proud of that, and Glenn remembers his part in it very, very vividly. He was bowled out for 3. And so Rudd's made a fair chunk of that partnership, it's fair to say. And, you know, these are Glenn's words. He said, to say Ken was competitive is a huge understatement. He wasn't opposed to throwing his bat around in the changing rooms when he was given out. He hated to lose, and he was unafraid to let the opposition know what he thought, which was absolutely okay, as Ken was better than all of us. This is Glenn Denham, who is an absolute legend sportsman. Yeah. Ken was better than all of us. He was better than the team we were playing and everyone that was watching. He could back up any trash talking with his mercurial skills out in the middle. I know he's had lots of very special cricket. Hang on. Sorry.
I'm going to sit down.
I know he's had lots of very... No, I'm just going to finish the Glenn Denham part because I thought he got robbed of his moment there. Yeah. He said, I know he had lots of very... oh, I've got to go this way. This is it. There we go. Yeah. I know we had lots of very special cricketers at Kings, right? And a lot of them are in the room tonight. I see Stewie McCullum and Ian Rutherford and John Cushion and people like that.
Yeah, Stewie could play.
But in Glenn's mind...
To get better on the field.
In Glenn's mind, Ken was the GOAT. Right, so I push back to you. What was it like playing with Glenn Denham? He was a great sportsman.
No, he was a great player. I mean, I remember the one, the Winton school where he played, I think, rugby, volleyball, basketball and soccer all at the same time. So, gee, he was a great player. Yeah. And cricket-wise, could bat. Yeah. And could bowl. No, good player.
Well, you guys, through
nice words.
A fair chunk, opened the batting and the bowling together, right? So a little bit on your shoulder.
Well, to be fair, we're nothing much else. I mean, Darryl, you were there. Branksy was fucking days. I mean, seriously. I mean, Branksy with Kitty Woodhouse. Kitty Woodhouse was there at Branksy, and we had the player umpires in those days, Mark. We had player umpires, and Branksy gave Kenny out. And all Kenny came back and he sent a message out to Branksy. He said, Branksy, you're not coming back until you... it was just diabolical. And it was like big quart bottles of Spates in the change room in those days, when I was 15. It was good stuff. But I mean, you can't play cricket like that, can you, really? I mean, you're not going to go Kenny.
No.
Kenny, what is it? No, seriously.
No. So Rudd's, like, as someone who played a lot of sport at Kings, they were very formative years for us as young men growing into our lives, I guess, and figuring things out. And in what ways were your sporting days at Kings, particularly your cricket days, formative for you, Ken?
I'm not so sure they were. I mean, seriously. I mean, cricket wasn't a big sport at Kings when I was playing. I mean, it was there or thereabouts, but I mean, it wasn't. I went to the West Indies when I was 19. I left Kings when I was 17. So it didn't really stand me in good stead when I went to West Indies, did it?
We'll come to that. That's another chapter.
Yeah, maybe off the field.
But for those who don't know, Ken wasn't just a cricketer. His teachers will probably vouch he wasn't an amazing student, but he was good.
Wasn't bad.
You were good at a lot of sports.
You were good
at a lot of sports, and you weren't bad at volleyball, and you were very good at football. Tell us about those.
I enjoyed it. Yeah, I still enjoy my football. Volleyball wasn't too bad. Yeah.
What sort of footballer were you at?
Yeah, left-sided. Yeah, good left foot. Yeah.
First 11, what year?
81, I think. Yeah, it might be.
Your last year?
Yeah, I think Graham was 3rd form, correct. I was 5th form, and GD was 7th form. So 3 New Zealand captains and 1 first 11.
Amazing.
Well, I'm not saying that, but anyway.
No, it's amazing.
Wasn't bad for King's High School, was it? Really?
So the runner left Kings, and it's fair to say his best days were ahead of him.
Well, I went 2 flash before that, so...
But before he became a professional cricketer, he spent a little bit of time working at the IRD, which is probably handy for you because you had a few tax returns to file.
I was 18 or 19 there. I'm now,
what were those days like?
I'm now nearly 60, so you better fucking get a move on it.
Well, I only mentioned the IRD
all right.
because it was
The spring rolls can be soggy, Nev, aren't they? I mean, seriously.
It was the most we saw you runner because it was your professional cricket days, and you actually frequented the Lager Bar at the City,
City Hotel, how good was that? Yeah, John Holbrook. Yeah.
Okay, Ruds insists we move on, so we come to the 1985 tour that he mentions. We all know that it was a tough time for poor old Ken Rutherford, 19 years old, called in. Something happened and you ended up opening the batting on that tour. How did that happen, Ruds?
I'm not so sure, they just picked me, didn't they? You know? Yeah. It was all good. I mean, a pair in my first test. Just trying to think, actually.
Set up, Ruds.
Yeah.
Well, I've got some notes here. 12 runs,
Marshall.
72 balls, 7 at-bats, test average of 1.7. Not an amazing start, but character building, right?
1.71, yeah.
Character building?
Yeah. The only problem I had was Barbados, when old Kenzie was supposed to play in Barbados and he was playing the golf course. As I'm walking out, he was supposed to play and he pulled out and not to go and open the batting there. Yeah, it was difficult.
So
I mean, you play for you asked to play for New Zealand, what are you going to do? You're going to turn down,
and it's not ever going to be easy, but but when you're facing Malcolm Marshall, Joel Garner and Michael Holding, 3 of the greatest fast bowlers of all time, and your first test as a cricketer, it has to be intimidating. What was going through your mind as you went out there and faced that and went through a 4-test series?
Well, I didn't have time to get through my mind, really, because I mean, seriously, it was like nick out, and, gone. I mean, there was nothing really happening. There was no longevity about it, big fella. I mean,
72 balls he faced over that series.
Did I? I'm surprised.
72 balls. Marshall got you 5 times. What was so tough about Malcolm Marshall?
Oh, okay.
Quite quick.
You are really a tosser. I mean, what is so hard about Malcolm Marshall? My God. Legend of the game. Yeah. In those days, you could bowl all these short balls. There's no sort of, quota about short ball bowling. So yeah, he was tough. Yeah, quick bowler.
So, and obviously, like that experience would have crumbled a lesser man, Ruds, but you came back from it and you eventually built that.
Here's my Hall of Famer.
Yeah, and you eventually built that average up from 1.7 to
27, which is really
27. It's pretty average.
Let's get honest about that.
It's 27 that's really 45, right?
That's still pretty shit.
But given your start, it's like 45. So you bounced back. What was that process for you like? Like dealing with that, putting that behind you, moving on, becoming the cricketer you eventually were?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really think about much, to be honest. It's just, you go from tour to tour, series to series. I mean, I think when I look back on that first series, the West Indies, I mean, it was hard. But I mean, you go to your next series and you think, well, I've got a point to prove. And I think part of growing up where I grew up and the family I did, and it was pretty important just to keep going. I mean, there was no shirking of the talent that I might have had. You just got to have a crack.
So being a South Dunedin boy, a Kings boy, bit of a battler,
a bit of that. I mean,
blue collar boy, that helped you?
Yeah, I think when you got together the New Zealand side, and they're all from Auckland and Canterbury and Wellington and stuff like that. It was well, I'm the one Otago guy here. We've got a part to play here, if you don't know.
Just talk to us about those early days in the Otago cricket team. Stewie McCullum's here. I remember I grew up as a kid watching the great Otago teams with Stewie, Keith Campbell, Peter Hills, Ian Rutherford. the Blair brothers, just so many fantastic cricketers that played the game that seemed to resonate with us. They played it hard, they played it with a lot of adventure, with no fear, and they played to win. It was a fantastic era, and Raj, you came into that as a young man. What was it like?
Yeah, I did. I mean, Stewie's, he's here now. I mean, Brendan goes okay, so he's probably a bit better player in the family.
Yes.
He's probably a better coach too.
Possible.
I mean, Brendan goes okay.
But he came from great stock.
Yeah, he did. And I mean, the last time Otago won the Market Shield, which was a Shell Trophy in those days, in 1988, Stewart, he got 135, was it, against Canterbury? And so, I mean, Stewart, good stock. And in those days, I mean, we had this thing about, we got to Mamona Airport, Horace McCaw's our manager, and he gave us these brown envelopes. $12 in the envelopes for a $2 box of Quinella, a pie and a pint. And that was what we played for, you know. Yeah, that's right. So we'd go north of the Waitaki River, and Stewart would say, right, boys, keep your mouth shut, you know. And we'd go to Canterbury and Wellington and Auckland. I remember we were going to Auckland once. Stuart, you remember this? And we were training at Eden Park number 2. And Leesy was captain. And he said, right, boys, we're back in the hutch, back in the change room. There was a lot of these beers lined up next to us. He said, right, score the first one. And we talked about the game for the next one. You know, it was nothing about the game so much. It was more about being part of the whole team, you know. So it was pretty much Otago stuff.
Sounds like the King's first 11 prepared you well.
Correct.
Before we move on to the rest of Rudd's career, which is a lot more upbeat and positive, so obviously we were mates through Kings, and I remember when Rudds came back from that West Indies tour, and I was working on the ODT, straight out of King's High School, got a job offered on the ODT, along with Craig Howie, who's here, similar pathway. I'm still a journalist, and honestly, thanks Kings for preparing me for what was going to be the rest of my life. Fantastic. But my boss said to me, Rudds has had a pretty tough tour, he's just got back. You know him, don't you? Can you ring him up and see if he'll do an interview with us? So I rang the rudder and said, sorry mate, I know you've had a tough time, it's Mark here, how are you? My boss wants me to do an interview with you, and Rudds goes, He goes, Captain Cook, 3 p.m, see you there.
Play some darts.
So we went straight to the Captain Cook, and Rudds had already had 2 jugs lined up. And at the end of about 5 or 6 jugs, we debriefed the tour, and I hadn't taken a note. I said to him, look, Rudds, I need to get some quotes down. And Rudds turned to me, said, Mark, he goes, you know what I want to say, you know what I felt, just write it, I think we'll be all good. Give me a ring if there's any issues. So that was how Rudds operated. He trusted his people. And
probably still do, actually.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Look,
you got lots of notes there, but
no, I don't.
That's a bit of a worry.
Look, just off the back of that West Indies tour, best bowlers you faced in your career.
Akram. Wasim Akram. He was the best. He was the best.
Moved it all over the show, right?
Yeah, he was the best. I mean, I faced him at Karachi with Crow and middle session, flat deck like this. And he goes off the field and he gets his gym shoes on, his sneakers on, and we're all crying our way back, patting ourselves on the back, thinking, well, we've broken his back, sort of thing. He comes back on about 10 minutes later and he bowls quicker than these sneakers, these little plimsolls, I mean, he bowled me a short in-swinger and he bowled me a big Yorker. I was thinking, you wanker. But he was the best.
There's that word again.
And Warnie was good. I mean, Warnie could bowl, couldn't he? Frankly.
Yeah.
Mushtakamid was, I could never pick him at all.
Waka, Keppel, the Aussie.
Yeah, Waka. I mean, seriously, he got me out in Lahore, Waka. The only disappointment was the stump didn't spear the keeper because he was a prick. Salim Yusuf. Fuck, what a wanker he was. Keppel Dev. Yeah. Oh, he was simple. He just drawn through the covers.
The Aussie trio, McDermott, Hughes, McGrath.
McDermott could bowl. Yeah, McGrath could bowl. They could all bowl. Merv could spit at you. Fertile spitting. Yeah, they could bowl. Yeah, who'd I say? No, Warnie's a great bowler. I mean, Warnie's a great bowler. He gave you nothing. He great leg spin, great consistency. Didn't bowl much for Ron, but Good bowler.
Good guy off the field.
Champion.
Dearly missed, clearly.
Absolutely. No, all the Aussies were good in those days. I mean, AB, I saw AB for lunch about 4 months ago. He's suffering from Parkinson's at the moment, AB, but he's an absolute champion. Mark was a good mate of mine. All those Aussie guys off the field were absolute great guys, you know. And I think that these days it's kind of lost to some extent. And back in the 80s and 90s, I mean, you used to, after the game, and, you know, have a good couple of beers and say where you're going later on, sort of thing, you know.
So no quarter lost on the field, but you're good mates off it?
Well, the best story is, well, I've got quite a few stories about that. I don't know how well I know you. But I was not out overnight at the Wacker in Perth on a Friday night. And the first race at Gloucester Park, which is just across the road, the Harness Racing Club, was about half an hour's time. And I was not out with Crow. And Crow was on about 70 and I was on about 30. So normally, you know, you clap the guy off first, who's going off first. You know, I fucking darted off there because I knew the first race at Gloucester Park was in about 25, 30 minutes. And just behind me was Mark Waugh. He's running off as well, and he's behind me. And I got to the bar before he did, put it that way. He said, "Ruds, that's impressive, because you had pants to take off." And that's a true story.
So remarkably, after Ruds' tough start to international cricket, they kept him in the Black Caps.
Can't believe it.
So you made a tour to England in 1986, and you played, I think, only in the drawn test at Lords, where you had a duck and 24 not out.
Yeah. Bloody good duck, though.
Bloody good duck.
I mean, seriously, it was unplayable.
What was it like playing at Lords?
Unplayable. Graham Dilly down the slope.
But you'd been there previously as the young cricketer, right?
Yeah, I had.
Yeah.
Yeah, thirsty.
Is it the home of cricket? Is it
it's
just
just
an amazing place?
Yeah, it was.
Nice.
Anyway.
But that tour, we all remember Ruds not for his efforts in the Test arena, but for a day in Scarborough where the Black Caps played the DB Close 11. And Mr. Ken Rutherford from King's High School in Dunedin, South Dunedin lad, made 317 out of 519 for 7 declared. Some say it was his greatest innings since the inter-school against Shirley Boys High School in 1981. I'm not sure, but some say it's your greatest innings. Ruds, what do you remember about that? Because it was an interesting innings, there was a lot going on, and your head was not exactly clear, right?
Yeah, no, we had a big night the night before. It was Willie Watson's 21st. Yeah, went to about 20 pubs. And I've always had this pretty infantile, you know, standard that if the captain's still up drinking, I'm up drinking. And Jeremy Combe was the captain. He was drinking flaming Gallianos at 4 o'clock in the morning. So I thought, well, I'm up as well, you know. And it was raining outside. And got up in the morning, pulled the curtains across. It was a bright sunny day. And, fuck it. And, went out there. Edgar and Franklin were first up, and I was next up. And I think it was Edgar got out first over. I nicked my first ball just in front of Boycott at the first slip. And he sort of scooped it up, and I walked off thinking, that's out. Thank God for that. And Boyce just called me back and said, "Hey, Ruds, Yorkshire accent." I said, "No, they didn't carry." I said, "Are you sure?" I was buggered. And now, we had one through the covers. I got 100 before lunch. I got 199 in the middle session. And the funniest thing was that at tea time, Jeremy Coney had slept the whole middle session, hadn't seen him. He was the captain, he was pissed. And there was a loud applause as I come into the dressing room at Scarborough, and they woke him up. He said, "Ruds, are you still batting?" And I said, "Yes, captain." He said, "You must be on about 170, 180 by now." He said, "No, I'm on 301. I said, "No, you can't be." John Wright slapped me on the shoulder and said, "Look at the scoreboard, captain." Yeah.
Great day, and I think for all of us from Dunedin that followed Rudd's career, I think that was the realisation of what we all thought he was capable of that day, even though we never saw it on TV. But
You all thought, well, get him pissed enough, he can actually perform.
yeah, exactly. Fantastic. But
Yeah, good on you, big guy.
but the good days would follow Rudd's 1992 World Cup.
This is a long.
Yeah, but
what's going on in this game? I mean, we're going.
1992 World Cup was pretty
I've
special.
had a bet in that game, so
1992 World Cup, Rudd's, be quiet for a second.
Okay.
1992 World Cup, you were part of a group that captured the heart of the nation. What was that like? Paddy, great bench opening.
Yeah, well, Benji did well. I mean, she was.
Back opening the bowling.
Yeah, six back. He did well.
What was that like? But you lost in the semi.
Well, I was lucky in the team, wasn't I? I mean, she was at the start. I wasn't really in the squad for a start, but yeah, Crown and I got a few against Australia at the first part of it, because Australia were the defending champions, weren't they, from the 87 World Cup? So yeah, we're just going to roll really, and then we got Wazimed, didn't we? Eden Park. So you know, it was a great ride in terms of getting on a momentum swing. Crow played unbelievable. I mean, you talk about batsmen I've seen over the last 30 or 40 years, playing fast bowling. Crow's the best. But the second's got Daryl Cullen, no doubt about that, who had a bit to do with in Transvaal.
Yeah, it's interesting you talk about Martin Crowe. We all know that you and him were cut from a different cloth.
Oh yeah, but I think we
different characters.
We respect each other a lot. And Crowe was, I mean, to play at the other end of Crowe was special, absolutely special. And to watch a guy like Java Mende bat or Border bat or Tendulkar bat, you can't, it's pretty special. And to watch Cullen bat, as I did, to see him play fast bowling, unbelievable. Just, it's hard to comprehend really. I mean, it's like genius, and Crowe was genius.
You also got to be a part of the tail end of the career of the great Sir Richard Hadley. What was that like? He was an interesting character.
Yeah, 5 years. He wore beige on and off the field. Which is true.
Very driven, right? By numbers, by achievements, by standards.
Yeah, you hated filming the third slip because every ball was a wicket. Every ball was a wicket. So you shut yourself for a third slip or gully or something like that. But no, a legend of the game, obviously, Pedals, and jeepers.
So to wrap up your international career, 94, you captained New Zealand to a very famous win in Joburg. You were part of a momentous moment, interesting moment in Sri Lanka when the bomb went off, and you had a big decision. What sort of stands out for you? What were the big moments?
The Joburg win Test match there in '94 was only bettered by the party afterwards. Really.
Which continued for multiple weeks, right?
That was a pretty special party, to be fair. I mean, we went pretty hard. I
lost the next two tests.
I went 10% hard, and the others got 90% hard, to be fair. But we lost the next two tests. We should have won the third test at Cape Town, no doubt about that. But yeah. What can I say? Yeah, it was a special time. Yeah.
So we won't bore you too much longer, but I got to ask you, what was your greatest international innings? And I think for me, Aussie, I think Christchurch 93, 50 in the first dig, 100 in the second against those Aussies. That must have been pretty special. Was that up there?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, Warney was bowling, and McDermott, Hughes, and those sort of guys. Yeah, they're pretty good guys to get runs against. Yeah, you always knew. If you get runs against those guys, they respect you. That was a big part of it. Yeah.